You ever wonder what it's like to just go off and farm your own land and just magically get a wife? Well, let's talk about it in this manga review. A corporate drone is summoned to another world and granted a powerful skill, Supreme Wielder, which is invisible to those who summoned him. They're dismayed to see his useless to them, so he asks for a little plot of land to work on for himself. His skill allows him to use any tool to its greatest ability, including fishing poles, cooking utensils, and construction tools. He fishes up a mermaid who wants him to be her bride's groom, charms a young dragon with his cooking skills, and excites an undead king with his rare skill. How long can his quiet country life last? So before we dive into this, I just want to say I did read this on my manga reading app before this actually got physical print. And unfortunately, because the manga app got deleted somehow, I lost everything. I couldn't find anymore. So I have been reading this for a while, and I do highly recommend any of this before we start going into detail. So Itanami Noro is just another corporate slave, and he's tired of his regular everyday life. He's just wants to go home and just get done with it. All of a sudden, he is teleported from Earth to this fantasy world, just like every other isekai. But once he gets summoned there, he finds out that he has no powers according to the people that he has been summoned by. And after a bunch of other things, they unfortunately tell him, well, unfortunately, we can't send you back, and we were kind of hoping you would be useful to us. So while he's sitting there debating, figured out, he was actually reached out by a god, the god of Isekai'd, I believe that's how it's spelled. Here's the spelling right here. He's actually the god of craft working, aka the son of Zeus. And he actually was taking over the spot of Aphrodite, who was in charge of summoning people over to this mystical world. And now he is put in his place because he apparently Aphrodite only summoned females and Zeus wanted males brought into the mix too. It's a whole other thing, political god, blah, 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 blah. So the god sits there and says, hey, this is what your ability does. Any tool you touch, you can bring out the full capability of this tool. So if you pick up a garden hoe, you can instantly fertilize the ground. If you get a wood chisel, you can instantly carve out what you need to do. And if you touch, I don't know, a fishing pole, you can get anything you want and the best quality you can get. So once Naruto goes back to reality, that is this fantasy world, he ends up convincing the king by going, hey, I'm not useful to you. Why don't you just send me off to some forest somewhere and just give me a plot of land so I can be out of your way? So the king says, all right, cool, this works with me. So he sends him off to this faraway forest that's outside the boundary of the kingdom, to which this is where he starts his life. MC decides to just start, with the basics, farming and tilling the land and slowly building up a place for him to, sit back, relax, and live. The thing that is kind of weird to him is he didn't really believe the god when they told him, hey, this is how your skill works. But he instantly, when he starts milling the fields, like making his fields, he notices that they're instantly fertile and there's already worms inside of them right after he tilled them. This further proves that he actually does have this amazing power. So he starts to wonder maybe this can work on swords and every other available tool that he has at his disposal. So after he plants the seeds that he has in his bag, he decides, let me go fishing. To which he grabs the fishing pole that was given to him, and he ends up finding this mermaid. He throws it in, maybe a couple seconds later, he ends up casting this getting this mermaid out. And from there, because he fished her out, this mermaid said, well, you have to marry me now. It's custom. If I was able to be fished out by some lowly human, you have to be my husband. To which she introduces herself as Pleiade is her name. And she says, hold on, I'll be back, and goes to get her dowry. So while she goes and gets her dowry, he says, you know what, let me build a house actually, make a bed so I can go to sleep. So he ends up building a house within an hour, which he was like, with these tools, like anything's possible. So he ends up making some dinner and falling asleep. To which in the morning, Pleiade shows up. He starts freaking out. He's like, where were you? I was actually starting to get worried, which, that charmed her. But she ends up bringing all of her potion casting materials that she needs. So after making food and winning her over because she's never had that kind of good cooking before, because like I said, using any of his tools brings out the ability of that tool. So cutting makes them the best cuts. Using them as a stirrer, like a pot stirrer, brings out the best flavor and the right thing. It just brings out the best quality in these products. So that's when they sit down, get to know each other a little bit further, and that's when Pleiade goes, well, there's actually a dungeon nearby that we kind of need to go take care of, and I can go get some XP and get some mana out of it and get some items that I need to make more potions. So they go off, and Naruto doesn't want her to go by herself, so he goes with her. And once they get in there, they start seeing these little monsters, to which Pallady takes care of them. But then as they're going through, Naruto sees a sword, so he decides to grab it, you know, for self-protection. As he does, the leader, dungeon master, dungeon boss, whatever you want to call him, of this place comes out. It was an undead lynch. And from there, there's a quick battle that happens, to which Naruto blocks and obliterates this undead person. Apparently, this sword they picked up, it was an holy sword. It's one of the best swords they're out, like, to be able to be used anywhere. And the sword apparently chose him and refuses to let him go. So they explain their whole situation to this undead lynch because they don't want to kill him. And the lynch tells their backstory of, I was sent to actually go get this sword, and some things happened that I don't remember, and now I've just been here protecting this dungeon the whole time. So they end up finding out, hey, they're neighbors, so they end up becoming good neighbors. And, you know, they say, if you ever need anything, just come back and forth and just, you know, do that whole thing. Fast forward a couple days, they're still tilling the fields, checking the crops, seeing what they get. And that's when Naruto goes, man, I could use some, like, actual, like, pig meat or something like that. I can make some good dishes. That's when Pallady's like, we need to get it. I need those dishes. So they go up into the mountains, and then they find some pigs, and he obliterate the pigs with the sword with no issues whatsoever. They bring this meat back, they start cooking. All of a sudden, this dragon starts attacking. Well, when a dragon attacks them, what does Naruto do? Pull out that sword, does it, freaks the dragon out, and he ends up, like, kind of defeating the dragon. And before the dragon goes away, Naruto was like, why don't you have some food with us? If you're the dungeon boss of this forest thing we didn't know about, to which we're sorry for trespassing, come have a meal. To which he cooks a meal, wins the dragon over with food. As they were cooking the next set, he finds his little girl here. Apparently the dragon just transformed into a little girl so she can eat the food better, I guess. And that's kind of how the volume ends. They basically end up becoming neighbors with everyone around them. You find out that Our World Cooking is winning over the fantasy people here, including his new soon-to-be wife, or is now wife. They didn't really clarify on this. And that there's going to be plenty of adventures. That's all I'm going to leave it to volume 2. At the end of, like, the newer mangas that come out, there is a light novel that gives a little bit more detail into a sneak peek of this. The art style, I like to say, is kind of comparative to one that we reviewed not too long ago on the channel. Reminds me of Hunting in Another World with my elf wife. They're very similar when it comes to describing the environment, when it comes to showing the enemies, giving off how sinister they are. They do pretty good with the art design. I like it, and I really have faith in this because I read, like I said, I read past volume 1 when I was reading on the manga app, and I really did enjoy it. So I really have high faith that this is going to be one of those that are going to end up eventually as a anime. Just like Farming in Another Life, that ended up being an anime, and then I think there's like been rumors for a Hunting with my elf wife, and then there's just a couple other ones I've reviewed over the years that end up just becoming anime. So I really do have faith in this, and I think others do as well. So let me know what you guys think. I've picked up a lot of isekais and fantasy stuff as of late. It just kind of happened that way. I'm going to try to lean back towards more modern stuff. Well, I say modern stuff, more like in our realm. Maybe some action stuff, maybe some romance. We'll see. I got a lot of people recommending stuff. Let me know what you guys think. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.